Hey everybody, Guilty here, and we have a special guest on the channel. I was going to say on the show, but I don't have a show. This podcast series, as it were, there's not even a name for it. It's Unnamed Podcast. And with me today is Justin Gross, voice actor of the OG Ryu Hayabusa. Before we get any deeper into this, Justin, thanks for joining me today.
Yeah, well, thank you. Thank you for having me on.
I reached out to you just because, it was almost 20 years overdue. I was just graduating high school, and me and a buddy, we had a little apartment together. Long story short, my dad was like, "You need to move out," and I was like, "Oh, okay." So I had an Xbox, and Ninja Gaiden came out, and I don't even know what convinced me to get it. We trade stories frequently about how pissed off I would get playing this game because it was so different and was so freaking difficult. And for you to be a part of that and to get to speak to you about it, and just relate to you, how long that game's been in my life, how much it means to me. And if you weren't aware, there is a huge community. There are so many people that just devote so much energy to this game. And like I said, it's an honor just to talk to you, the original Ryu Hayabusa.
Well, thank you. That's quite an introduction there. I appreciate it. It's funny, as a voice actor, I've done many video games. We're not privy when we get cast in something. Typically, we're not privy to the entire script. We're not privy to how the game will work or will function, and we're strictly on a need to know basis because they just don't divulge scripts, and they don't divulge the full storyline. And so when you're in there recording, and this was some years ago. Yeah, I remember just getting excerpts from the script that they wanted me to record, and they would only give me context for each line or for each block of lines as we did it. So I did not get a full overview of the story at all when we were recording, because I was also the Arthas in Warcraft, and so same with that. It's like you show up, you have your lines or your sides, and they give you a little bit of context or how they want the emotion to be, but they really don't give you the full story. You don't know what else is going on until after the game comes out, until you can read stories. And I'm not a gamer. I've never been a gamer, and it's only after the fact do we actually know what the story is, and that's pretty typical.
Yeah, you answered a lot of questions I had in the back of my noggin, and it was, how are you fed your lines? Are you just given words on a sheet of paper and told go? Are you given any context? Are you told in parentheses, sound suspicious, sound aggravated?
Yes, that's exactly it. So unlike a movie or a TV show, we don't get the script in advance. We don't get our sides the night before. You show up to the studio, you've been booked, you fill out your paperwork, and go in, and then you go into the booth, and for each page or for each section or each block, they give you a little bit of context about what's happening, and then they will tell you what emotions they want, and they'll direct you. And of course, you'll do each line multiple times just because they want to see what works best. And,
right.
Yeah, so each line, you could do 10, 20 takes on a particular line, and the funniest thing, the most ridiculous thing are the exertions, and you're like going, ugh, ah! Like you feel like a maniac in the booth there, because you'll do a series of 10, 20 of those in a row, and they're isolating each one and putting what they think is best in the game. So
the reason that my channel is what it is, it started off just me playing Ninja Gaiden on Twitch. That's long story short. I started digging into how to mod my Xbox because I really wanted to play around with another game that I really enjoy. And my buddy was like, dude, if you can mod Ninja Gaiden, change Ryu's outfit from black to white, give him a blue scarf, or do all these different things, how cool would that be? And I was like, that would be so cool. At the time, I was like, it would also be impossible. I have no idea what I'm doing. And now here I am. I actually have figured out how to mod the textures in what we call NGO4, the original Ninja Gaiden, and Ninja Gaiden Black. I can swap music in and out. And part of that is pulling the files down of all the interactions, and that includes cutscenes. So I have those excerpts that you're talking about. I can look at all these MP3s, and it is the exertion sounds. It is every line cut out. And I can only imagine that after they got the one that they wanted, they were like, that's it, crop it out, save as, and now it's in there, and then they add it to the folder, because that's what I see. It is just a big folder of just sentences.
That's incredible. I mean, that you've done that. That's really, I mean, did that take you long to figure out? I mean, it just seems
well,
like that's
thankfully, there was
some.
there's a lot of people out there that have been modding games sort of like this, because Team Ninja also does Dead or Alive. And so a lot of people were getting into that and playing around with replacing textures and costumes in that game. And it just so happened that, I guess because Team Ninja is the same developer, that they used the same language at the time. And it just took me a couple months of gathering some things and some bits and pieces. But yeah, hand on a Bible, I am the first one to have done that. And it's the real reason that I have as many subscribers to my channel as I do. I really have no other reason than that. And then there is the Master Collection coming out next month. They're remastering it, and they're re-releasing it to PS4, Xbox One, and PC, which people have been clamoring for a long time. Going back to how the sound files were arranged.
Yeah.
To me, it looked like a visual representation of what it must have been like to be in the booth, because you're just given a line and told to read it. Did they guide you on how they wanted Ryu to sound? Or I mean, how did they find you, first off, and then how did they approach you on how to voice this character?
Yeah, so that job came about through my agency that I was with at the time. That was the Tischerman Agency. It's now called TMGD. But they, it was. I basically went to an audition and I nailed it and got the part. I mean, there was no magic, or it was just, they liked the way that I sounded in the audition, and they called me in. And I think we did 2 sessions. It was just two sessions to record all of that. And that was it. I mean, a lot of times, like for Arthas, like that, again, that was maybe 2 auditions. I think I had a callback for that. And then I got it. I think at that time, now for video games, a lot of times they're hiring name actors now. Nowadays, you're seeing that more and more, just like animation. I mean, like I've done animation where, there weren't a lot of names in it, but now it's like, it'd be unheard of almost for animation to be produced without a name. So it's actually squeezing out a lot of journeyman voice actors like myself to some degree, because it's just those parts are going to names, and the working VO actors can get edged out on that. I still audition every day. And back then, most of the auditions were coming through the agency. I'd have to go to the agency in person. They have a sound booth in there. I would lay down the audition and they would send it over to the people producing it. And I think it was Blind Light that was doing it. We recorded it was just a little studio in the Valley. And I do remember a lot of Japanese executives being there from the video game company, and from, I couldn't understand what they were saying. And it's weird that they would sit in on a voiceover session, because from what I could tell, not many of them spoke English, but they seemed to have input on some of the lines. So they would have a translator there, and then they would, that's how they would be directing. So it was kind of an odd, I would say it was a more unusual recording session than most.
Yeah, you have the option to play with the Japanese dub, and I mean, I'm not fluent in that language, and but to hear it, you can, I guess, pick up on how the line's being delivered. So if they didn't understand English, I guess the universal language would be subtext and just how you sounded.
You're right. I think that's what they were going for. And it's just, that's where I guess the acting component comes into. So maybe they're gauging what they were feeling from my performance. They would say, like, bring it up on this line, or bring it down, make it more, sinister, or whatever the word the English translator would give me.
There is a part, and I did a video on this because it eluded me for a while. There's a part towards the end of the game where Ryu defeats the big bad, the Emperor. The Emperor continues taunting him and then rises up in his second final form. In the Japanese version, he screams what sounds like Batare or Bakatare or something. I'm not entirely sure. And the name of the file is Batare. And I don't think it's an actual word. I think Bakatare means like idiot or moron or stupid or something. The English, you're dubbed though. I don't know if you remember this. You kind of say the same thing. There's no English word. It sounds like you say, Batare! And I'm like, what is he saying? And in both versions, it's like the Japanese word, I don't even know that's a real word. And it's almost like in English, they just told you to kind of mimic what the original dubber did. Do you remember recording something and being like, okay, I guess I'll just say something or I'll scream something and we'll use that?
Yeah, so that's not uncommon either. Like especially in because I've done a lot of anime as well. It could be an iconic word that's germane to the story or to some original text that they're taking it from, and so they'll get it. Sometimes they may not use it, but yeah, they did have. I mean, there were different words that I had said. Some things, yeah, I don't understand, of course.
Yeah.
But in the anime, it's a little more. It's because they have the lip. They're trying to match the lip flap directly. Then you've got to say something in there. So, but I do remember in anime recordings, like saying things that I had no idea, and I didn't know if my pronunciation was correct or not. But yeah, I do recall saying some things in that session that I didn't know what I was saying.
Well, thankfully for Ryu, he was wearing the mask or the balaclava, and you didn't have lip flaps so much as you had chin drops. Again, you could sort of tell when his chin was moving.
Yeah, right. Yeah, and lip flap is. I mean, they do try to sync it when you're trying to match that anime, because you'll do multiple takes and you've got beats in your headphones that are kind of telling you when to start and then when to stop.
Really?
Yeah. It's because the animation's already finished.
Right.
Unlike I did Ultimate Avengers, which was a Marvel thing, and that was different because they were still building the animation when we did the recording. So there was a little bit of leeway. We didn't have to be so precise, and it could be more performance driven, I guess. We had more maybe an organic acting experience rather than doing anime, because anime is very much, you got to get it between this beat, and that there's no fudging it.
Were you working with anybody on Avengers? Because you made it sound like when you were doing Ninja Gaiden, it was pretty much you and then those executives. You weren't really going off of anybody else.
Yeah, you so that's correct, right? Perceptive. Yeah, in when I did Avengers, they did multiple cast members in a larger, maybe where they would record symphonies. So that it was like a larger room, or maybe bands in a recording studio where there were, I think, 4 or 5 of us at a time sometimes. And I went back for multiple sessions for that, sometimes individual. But yeah, we did have group scenes in that, which was great because as an actor, it's really fun to play off of other people. And you can, when you're doing your thing, you can actually look at them and kind of get into the dialogue more. Because, I mean, being a voiceover person really is like it's pretty solitary.
Yeah.
Nowadays, I haven't done a session in person now. And I mean, now going on 2 years, of course, because of the pandemic. But even before that, I don't even live in LA anymore. And I have my own sound booth, and I'm like a lone wolf in the mountains. It's like, I don't interact with people like I used to.
That's kind of disappointing to hear, because I was really sort of hoping. Well, so they do make the interactions Ryu has, like with Rachel and Mirai and the other characters, they sound really organic. It's almost as if I imagine this entire time that you at least were interacting with Tara Strong, or I forget who Doku's voice actor's name was, but they just make it really, really work, which says a ton about you and them. that you're able to be alone, record a line by yourself, but it sounds like you're engaging with somebody else.
Yeah, that's a little bit of, I guess, Hollywood magic in that way, because it was the same thing with World of Warcraft. Like I never interacted with anybody in doing those lines. It was all solo. So yeah, I mean, I remember seeing Tara Strong in the, like, I think she was recording after me or before me in one of the sessions, and so she was in the lobby of the studio. But yeah, that was the only interaction, you know, saying hello, and that was it.
You were the voice of the protagonist, the main character of a reboot of a franchise that hadn't seen a release in, I guess at that time, probably almost 10 years. I can't remember when Ninja Gaiden 3 on the NES released, but I think the first one came out like in 89 or something. So it had been a while. And this was the big 3D reboot for the new Xbox. And again, another fantasy, another daydream, I guess, is that Team Ninja was just like, you're the guy. Here's a whole Ryu Hayabusa costume because you're the guy. Here's all this stuff to commemorate this occasion.
Wouldn't that be nice?
Yeah, and I'm guessing it was.
It's unceremonious. It really is. It is. And from my perspective, like I'm okay with that, because I've been so lucky to be able to be like a working voiceover actor. I'm not huge, but I mean, I make a living doing this, and I've done, made a living doing it for 20 years. So for me, all of these, and especially back then when I was in LA, each job just represented like another like stake up the mountain.
Yeah.
It's like, I get this one, I get that one. But yeah, those jobs, I mean, there was no ceremony though. No, I mean, you go in, thank you for doing this. Here's your contract, you sign it, boom, get to work. And that's it. Like, as you get I mean, I didn't get any swag or anything like that. I mean, I got nothing. In the Avengers, they gave me a poster. They gave me a post because my name, I had a top billing on that, which is weird. Like that, I mean, that was fantastic for me because I'm not famous, but it was cool to have my name first on that movie poster. It's like, oh my gosh, look, this is like a nice accomplishment. But yeah, that's all I ever got.
You were Captain America too in that, weren't you?
Yeah.
So, I mean, top billing, yeah, you ought to be. You're voicing the first Avenger.
Yeah, and we did 2 of those movies, and that was it was great. It was a gift, man. It was such a wonderful experience to be able to do that. When I started doing voiceover I started doing it in the late 90s, and then when I moved to LA, I really didn't have much success. I didn't have much luck, but I had these really good demo tapes, like tape, that I would mail out to casting directors and agents, and nobody gave a shit. Nobody gave a crap about my voice or anything. So, but I was very, very persistent. I would always send them out. I had like 500 tapes. I had to get rid of them. So I would just mail them out to anybody. My dad's also an actor. And at that time we had illegal access to breakdown services. At that time, breakdowns would come out every morning to all the agencies and managers in Hollywood. And there would be a list of what they were casting for that day. So I remember like at 4 or 5 in the morning, the fax machine would go off, and we had that old thermal fax, and it would come out. I'd cut the pages, and then I'd see what they were casting. And I saw that they were casting for the Saturn commercial for Saturn cars. So I sent my demo tape over to Terry Berland, who's a casting director. My luck, she called me for an interview. I didn't have an agent, so she called me directly and said, come in and audition for this. So I went there, auditioned, did a horrible audition. She actually had to correct me and say like, no, just say the words. Just say the words. Don't act, just do it. So luckily I followed her direction and I ended up getting a call back to the agency, the ad agency, which was at the time, it was Hal Riney in San Francisco. This was all done in LA. They came down and had a call back. It was me and 2 other guys, and they worked with each of us for about an hour. And then I ended up getting that commercial. Now, this was one commercial. There's a lot of work for this one commercial. So I booked it. That commercial led to every other commercial Saturn did for the next year and a half. That job changed the trajectory and it changed my life. Because without that, not only was the money incredible, I had never seen money like that from a union. Like, you're the brand voice of this car company.
Yeah.
That was, I would call that everyday mailbox money. Like, everyday money would be in my mailbox, residuals. I was doing the radio, the TV. I would do their corporate BOs. I did their, like, a phone tree for Saturn company. It was like, I was doing everything for them, but it was short-lived. Nothing in voiceover, nothing lasts forever. I took some of the work I had done and I went into a guy who had a studio where they created demos. And I thought, I'm going to add this to my demo. And he was his name, Dave Sebastian Williams, who owns, he owned a studio there. And he said, "Hey, do you have an agent?" I said, "No, I'm trying to get an agent." He's all, "I'm going to take your tape into my agent," which was Steve Tisherman at the time. So anyway, he took it in there. He helped me a great deal by doing that, because I went in and interviewed with the agency and then they signed me right there. But it was, I think part of it was because I had this work from Saturn that was already there. Suddenly there was interest in my voice because there was some money attached to it. And that's what it's a business. And if there's no money behind you, you're less interesting. So yeah, so that's how I got started.
You were Mr. Saturn.
Until I wasn't.
Right.
So that ended, that was like I had a good year run on that. But let me tell you, I bought a house off of that money.
Wow.
Back in 2001, I was able to buy a house with that. So so from that point on, once I had my house, I met another voice actor, Steve Mackel. He's done a lot of stuff. We did a job together, and he told me he had this home studio with ISDN. And I was like, "Wow, what is ISDN? What is that?" And he said, "Well, come over and check it out." So he invited me over to his house. It was a little booth in his garage. It was nothing spectacular, nothing fancy, but it was just a booth. He had this ISDN, this codec. Man, it couldn't be more primitive. And I thought, "You do work like that?" He's like, "Yeah, I do work all over the country, man." He's like, "You got to get one of these things." So I did. I said, "I'm going to follow his advice." So I had that put in to my walk-in closet, and that enabled me to get agents in different parts of the country. That was a game changer. So it all happened like right around that same time.
What got you into wanting to do voice acting in the first place? What was the catalyst to, landing that gig with Saturn, which then led to everything else? How do you get into something like that?
I did theater in high school and college. And so I'd always enjoyed it. And I was doing a play after college, and this woman, her name's Elizabeth Nunziato. She's an actress in Sacramento. She was directing the show, and she made her living doing voiceover. And I was so intrigued. I'm like, "How do you make voiceover? Like, what do you mean? Like, you just talk, you show up and talk?" She was so generous with her time. She really thought I could do it. She's like, "I think you could do voiceover. Like, I think you have a good voice." And to me, my voice has always just been pretty average. I don't think I have anything spectacular, but she heard something in it, and she helped me make this really good demo. I mean, it was my first demo, but it sounded like real commercial spots on there. She spent time. I didn't pay her for this. She just helped me. And it was a kick-ass demo. And I started getting little jobs like in Sacramento and San Francisco. And so I had a little bit of work I had done. But then when I moved to LA, I thought, well, I'll do voiceover down in LA. Yeah, nobody gave a shit. It was like, okay. The demo was good, but it was like, you don't have any client, you don't have any existing revenue attached to you. So like the big agencies just aren't interested unless you have like a body of work or at least an existing client like I had with Saturn. So it's, they're all there. It's money. And I get it. But yeah, that's how I got started. I moved to LA and I had my teaching credentials. So I was able to work as a studio teacher in LA. So I would teach on set on different like commercials or TV show here and there. So I would teach the kids that were actors on the show.
Nice.
So that was that was like my day job.
That paradox sounds very familiar. It's like, well, you need experience to do this job. It's like, well, if you give me the job, then I'll have the experience.
Exactly.
Where do I get the experience from? And then they're like, that's not our problem.
It's a total catch-22. And, it's like that with getting into the Screen Actors Guild. It's like, you can't be a member of the Screen Actors Guild unless you've had a Screen Actors Guild job. But you can't get a job unless you're a member. Like, does this mean, how do you get in? It's like, it's a very similar thing. There's just a lot of that in that business.
When you finished with Ninja Gaiden, did nobody reach back out when they were doing Ninja Gaiden 2?
I guess not, because I probably would have done it.
Yeah,
it's so weird. Yeah,
that's what I was saying.
It's not like I wasn't able to be found. I mean, I have a website. I'm searchable on the internet. Anybody can find me. Yeah. So maybe they weren't interested for whatever reason. Maybe I have a bad reputation as being difficult to work with. I don't know. Yeah, because this happened on Warcraft. Mm-hmm. Like, they had reached out to me for the next one, and the money that they had offered was lower. I mean, it was like not even similar. It was like a really low ball amount. And even my agent said, no, I wouldn't take it. I wouldn't do it if they're not going to offer you at least the same. So yeah, that's
the same as what you did with them the first time.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It was really weird. It was a weird decision that they had made, I guess. And so, yeah, I'm under the advice of my agent. I just said, okay, I love doing it, but I need to be paid. This is not a volunteer sort of situation. And I'm not getting that much mileage out of the role to where, like, oh, I'll do it at any cost. And it's fine. No, I mean, it was weird, but I'm not angry at Blizzard. Blizzard is the one who did that back then. And, it's just the way it goes. It's not, it would have been nice. I mean, like, I'm available. I can do, Ninja Gaiden 12. Just let me know. I can do it.
A lot of people are hoping that when the remasters of Ninja Gaiden come out, that the sales numbers, they're really encouraging people on Reddit to, like, if you want to support Ninja Gaiden, get the collection, because Team Ninja will see that, they'll see the interest, and then that will lead to Ninja Gaiden 4, or I guess the worst case scenario would be like a reboot or a soft reboot. I'm not too sure what it is about NGO4 and NGB. It's just, nothing can match like the formula of how they did that game. And that's why I wanted to talk to you, was just because you were a part of that, for lack of a better word, masterpiece. That game was great.
Well, thank you. It's nice to be associated with a masterpiece.
Well, I'm wondering, do you get this often? I looked at your resume, and I've seen a lot of people on the internet talking about your work with Warcraft. I guess people, like, they have this continuity, this sort of this OCD for continuity across mediums like that.
Yeah, well, I wish companies would get that. I mean, because they do have a very hardcore fan base. To keep the same voice would probably please those people, but it certainly wouldn't turn off other people. You only risk it the other way, turning off your core fan base,
right?
Rather than, so yeah. I mean, maybe they're more deliberate nowadays with that, but again, with any sort of Ninja Gaiden going forward, they're going to cast. I'm almost certain it will be Asian American actors.
Yeah.
And that's fine. Okay, that's the way it is. But it will be a new crop of voices. You will not see this the casting like they did in the past. It's just not. It's not happening in any way, shape, or form right now. And I see it in the casting notices that they will just not budge on this. And it's.
Well, and I mentioned in my email to you that if modding the games when it comes to PC is as feasible as I'm hoping it will be, well, then I'm just going to hire you and create an OG Ryu dub for Ninja Gaiden 2 and maybe Ninja Gaiden 3, and we'll just do it ourselves. If I were to be like, hey, all right, so Ryu says the Archfiend, is that enough information? Or do you need him to be like, well, in a surprising tone or in a horrified tone? Like, you kind of, you touched on it already. I have to have
context. Yeah. And then, like, in that, you get several different versions of that line with that context. So
that's crazy. I just don't know. I don't know the business clearly. And I'm curious if my buddy, the same one I've been talking about, he does audiobooks on the side. He's done a few, and he just records in his basement. I have looked into it as well, but when I look at the adverts for them, they're looking for somebody with like a southern drawl, or they're looking for something specific. And I'm over here like, I don't have a repository of voices I can just dip into.
But here's the thing. Are you talking just for audiobooks?
Well, I mean, I
or
guess
for voiceover in general?
In general, how do you tap into a voice? Do you have voices that you just sort of click on, or I don't know how you do it?
I feel like my ability to do like vastly different characters is pretty limited. I mean, I think I don't have a deep bench of characters that I do. I mean, it's really my voice that I just do, that I don't put anything on. I mean, you have that, my voice is not deep. It's not super deep. It is what it is. So, I mean, I think that's where the acting ability comes in when you're doing those roles, because it's an instrument. It can only do what it can do. I've met people with unique voices, girls with raspy voices, or get men with deep voices, and they go, "Hey, well, we want to get into voiceover." I have helped people. I've, tried to help them, I should say. And a lot of times people with those unique they don't have the acting ability or the voice acting ability to put it to use. Mm-hmm. So you may have a unique voice, but you've got to have that other thing.
Well, there's two words there: voice acting.
Exactly. There's an intuitive element to it, and I could never put my finger on exactly what it is, but I get voiceover. I get voice acting. I've been at my agency. Sometimes they would be celebrities who had not done much voiceover, but they would be considered for a particular product or something. I've read with a couple celebrities in the booth at the agency who were terrible. Mm-hmm. Good, excellent, awesome actors, but terrible at the voiceover aspect of it, because it's a little different. So you don't need a unique voice. You just need that ability to be able to use your instrument.
How would you recommend somebody wanting to get started in that these days? I mean, you sent out cassette tapes back then, but now you have the internet. You just post a demo reel on YouTube and send out.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot more. There's a lot more people in it, so I feel like the internet has sort of, lowered the bar to entry. Before, like I'm telling you about I'd have an ISDN line in my house. I mean, it was thousands of dollars to get that set up. I mean, so yeah, nowadays, if you want to do voiceover work, there are, these pay to play sites, voices.com, voice123, we hate those, because that is a race to the bottom for rates and payments and whatnot. But there are sites like that where people with no experience can put their demos on, and you can kind of try to claw your way up. And I've never taken a voiceover class, but I would say perhaps a introduction to voiceover class would be good. You got to have a solid demo. The demo is key. It really has to be good. It needs to be produced like they are real spots. Like right. They are, like it's a really, like those are real things on your demo. Because I listen to demos here and there, and I can usually tell, like, oh, somebody put this together. I can tell they all kind of sound the same. Those the little things in the demo, all the excerpts. But reaching out to people who've done it or who are experienced in it. Here's the thing: there's a lot of charlatans out there who do voiceover classes and will want you to sign up for their program. I've listed. There's a company called Such a Voice. I don't know if people have heard of this, but they are out there marketing their classes and services to people all in different parts of the country. And in my area, they had a person that was doing these classes, and I listened to that person's demo, the person who was running these classes. At best, Des Moines radio quality. I mean, like she was not good. It was just shocking that person with that demo is teaching classes, teaching people how to do voiceover. And that program, by the way, is thousands of dollars, and you're guaranteed to get your demo at the end of this program. So anybody who wants to get into voiceover, just be judicious with who you are giving your money to. If somebody's teaching you voiceover, listen to their demo.
Yeah.
Search them online, Google them, see what people think, see what they've done. I mean, a body of work speaks for itself, I think.
I wasn't even aware that such traps were out there. I guess because I never really explored that industry like that.
Yeah, there's just a lot of hacks and a lot of people that will sell you classes on voiceover. I've never done a class. I've never put on a class. I've never asked anybody for money to help them with the demo. Anybody I've helped I've just helped. I've just done it because I think maybe they could do it, and because people helped me
Right,
in the
right,
past.
right.
So I always think, I got to pay it forward, to some people, and I think that's important. But yeah, just do your research. Don't on that, because like I say, it's just like acting. You go to LA, there's a lot of charlatan acting teachers, or you see it in smaller markets too. Sacramento, San Francisco, whatever market, whatever city you're in, there are acting experts in that city, and just look at their resume, see if they're any good.
Do you know? You probably don't. But I'm going to ask the question anyway. Do you know off the top of your head how many commercials or ads you've done?
Thousands.
No exaggeration.
No exaggeration. Thousands. So I keep a book. I keep a book. It's a little log, and I write in each job that I do. And so, I mean, it's quite extensive. Yeah, it is literally thousands of jobs. Oh, I would say we're over the 2,000 mark for sure. I mean, because it's like, and some may be multiple clients, and I may do, a college in Pennsylvania, I do their voiceover, I may do one a month for them or two a month for them, so I write those down too. So I count those as job, each separate booking,
Has anybody gotten a hold of you and held on to you like Saturn did? Have you become like
No.
I was going to say unofficial, the official like voice? No, Saturn was it?
Sad. I mean, like, I did the first Starbucks commercials. I did the first, like, when they first did their first TV commercials. Like, I voiced that. Saturn was like the big deal. I mean, I've done series of commercials for Comcast, for I did stuff for ESPN. I've done it, but I've never been like Saturn. I think I was a brand voice for a short period of time. Yeah.
With you doing Ninja Gaiden, you already had Warcraft 3 under your belt at that time?
I believe so. I believe Warcraft 3 came first.
Was that it though, as far as video games go at that time? You had Warcraft, and then you just auditioned for Ninja Gaiden and you landed that?
I had done other video games, and I may not have had credit on some of them because I had a contact. It was Universal. Somebody was producing games. They would bring me in for small voices, just like ancillary voices on some of these games, and some of them I was never credited for. And honestly, I don't remember the name of the games because I've never been a gamer, so to me it was just like, okay, this is just a gig, come in, do it, grunt, yell something, and then move on. But yeah, I think there was SWAT, Hulk. There was a Hulk game. Yeah, I've done it, but there's a bunch of different games. But the thing with the games back then, the contracts are different now. So like for union games, you get paid a lot more now. Back then, it was not a lot of money. So nowadays, you get a little piece of the sales too. Like SAG has negotiated a little piece of that, which is awesome. I never got a piece of that in any of the games that I had done because it was all pre that contract. So, I always viewed games as kind of undesirable in a way. I can go in and do a commercial that's union, and I'm in there for 30 minutes to an hour. I'm not sweating. I can, I'm in and out. It'll play on TV. I get lots of money for that. A game, I would get my session fee. I go in for 4-hour sessions. It's work. You're yelling, you're sweating. It's like physical. You're exhausted. I mean, at the end of 4 hours, this sounds ridiculous to anybody who does manual labor, and I apologize, but you do feel tired after 4 hours of screaming and yelling and whatnot. So I always thought, gosh, for the session fee, like, it's really not that great of a deal,
And you mentioned you don't get attached to anything. So, and you didn't know at the time that this would be what it is. And Ninja Gaiden isn't like, it's not Marvel Avengers. It's not necessarily a household name, but it certainly means a shit ton to people like me. There's a buddy in England, and I was watching. He's a freaking master of the game. There's another guy in Germany. Like, we're a global community where people are finding new ways to play it, or they're just really freaking good. And you're like, wow, I wish I was that good at anything, let alone playing this game. And so that's kind of what ties us together. And this has been this has been like a passion or something you go like fanatic over for years. But for you, it was 4 hours of effort, and you keep yourself from being attached to it because you don't know if you're going to do it again. You don't know if that was it. That's it's now in the dustbin of history. You don't know at the time if it's going to become anything. So when you walked out of that session sweating and tired, did you have any thoughts other than, I hope that was worth it?
Yeah, I thought that I'm going to go to Baja Fresh and get a burrito because I was hungry. I mean, that was really, I try not to put that much into it because I know I do an audition, I do a job, and I forget it. It's in the past and it's done because, I've had actor friends who get too attached to things and they get devastated when something ends. But I mean, it's wonderful to be a part of something like that. And when people do email me, they message me, or if they find me on YouTube, I mostly almost always message them back or write them back because I appreciate it. Like, hey, thanks for doing it. Or we like your work. I do appreciate that. That is genuine. And I appreciate when people reach out. I don't know. I sometimes I think that disappoints people because I've met people like I went to a wedding a couple of years ago and there was a group of guys there who were really big fans of Arthas. Like they played it all throughout their childhood and they're like, oh my God, it's so cool. And then like they wanted me to say these lines or like what? And I was like, I'm sorry. Like I don't really remember that. I don't remember. I said it was a job. I did it, and then I moved on with it.
There's a guy I found, and all I had to do was a lazy IMDb search. Another Xbox game. He did the voice of the main antagonist, and I felt his voice acting was really good. I was like, the delivery was good. He sounded real sinister, and I just did this entire time. I was like, who was that guy? And it was a game that didn't have much of a following, so I didn't really anticipate finding much. All I had to do was a quick Google IMDb search, and there he was. So I hit him up on Twitter. And I was like, dude, you were Mitch Azana. You did a great voice. It's awesome, blah, 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 blah. And he's like, I don't even remember doing this game. But I YouTubed it, and that's my voice. Weird.
Oh, my gosh.
And I'm like, yeah. And I'm starting to understand, like, this was a few hours for you. This was a few hours for him, to us. I mean, I've been playing these games for years and years and years.
I just the other day, I was looking at an anime website and I plugged my name in there and there were all these things that had come up and I was like, holy shit, I don't remember some of these titles. And there are some I do they're on the top of my brain, but a bunch of the other ones, I was like, God, I don't remember doing it. I just don't. I don't have any recollection of what it's about or my work on it.
Yeah.
The video games I remember more because they were, like I said, they're brutal sessions. So that always stands out. But yeah, I guess, from a voice actor perspective, you just want to you want to work as much as you can. And, that's it. Yeah. You kind of collect jobs.
Yeah. And I mean, like I said earlier, when you're doing it at the time, you don't know what it's going to be. I used to instruct when I was in the military, and any of those students that I had could wind up being the freaking chief of staff of the Air Force or something. And if somebody were to tell me, hey, he was your student back in 2017, I'd be like, no, he wasn't.
Yeah, right.
Was he? I'll take your word for it, I guess, because there might be 2 students I remember, and it's for the wrong reasons.
Yeah, I mean, it can happen too. I've had people tell me too, like from the past, like not even showbiz or voiceover related. They, it happened not too long ago. Somebody reached out and said, hey, you had done something very nice for me back in the day. And I really appreciated it because it was at a time when I really needed it. And this happened and I was like, God, I can't remember what did I don't remember doing this, but I guess I did it and it made an impression. So that's where you try to do the best work you can. You try to be the best person you can because you don't know who you're going to touch and who you're going to, who you're going to impact and in what way.
Yeah, I just had it. Is it Blue Moon?
Yeah.
You did a commercial for Blue Moon. You've done these commercials for all these other entities. And I bet you 90% of the comments are, oh my God, Warcraft, or oh my God, Ninja Gaiden. And you're sitting there like,
you're right. But it's okay. I do like that. Because I mean, otherwise who knows who's doing the Blue Moon spots now? Nobody knows. Like, who knows that?
Yeah.
So it's kind of nice. I find it I'm touched when people comment on it, even if they're kind of making fun of me a little bit on YouTube, like, oh, now you're doing this, or, it's funny because sometimes people think of it as a come down. The money I make from Blue Moon versus the money I made from Warcraft, it's like, you get a lot more from Blue Moon and these commercials than you do for a lot of the video games that I've done. So, and not to equate everything to money, but it's not just that, but that's how I kind of see it. Each job's got a value, and you try to, in my mind. So I know which ones are the most valuable, and I know which ones have paid, and which ones were not that lucrative. So,
well, I'm pretty sure if you get an invite from Blue Moon, that it's not going to entail screaming and acting like you're getting killed, or
Nah, it'll be a very chill session.
Yeah,
probably 30 minutes to 45 minutes, and then I can leave.
What kind of headspace do you have to get into to do the exertions, the growls, and the dying sounds?
That's where the acting, I guess, comes in, because that you have to put yourself in that imaginary circumstance of what the script is saying at that moment. So you have to really pivot quickly, because you're doing all of this in a span of 4 hours, sometimes less. So you could be doing regular dialogue, and then we're pivoting to dying. So you have to make that change quickly, mentally and emotionally. So yeah, the headspace is you have to be very flexible and just be able to pivot quickly. Being quick in your imaginary circumstances to do that is key for voice acting in games and in animation.
Is the booth big enough for you to sort of act out what you're doing, or do you have to be very like sitting up straight with the microphone in front of you? Can you at least be like, yeah, just to help? Okay.
Yes. And I'm very physical when I do them. So whenever I'm doing actually any voiceover, I use my hands a lot and whatnot. So even if I'm just talking, and in those especially, when I'm dying, if I'm grabbing myself, if I'm lunging or punching, I'm doing punches in the booth, I'm doing, so it is a very physical session. And most of the booths where you're recording games and that they're large. Yeah, they're large enough to be able to do your stuff.
Does bad voice acting make you cringe?
Of course. Yeah. Right now, what makes me cringe are a lot of ads where they're just sort of flattening out at the end, like this week at Macy's, like that. Oh, God, I hate that. Yeah. It just drives me nuts.
Oh, this sort of deadpan, like, all right, let me read this paragraph so I can get the hell out of here.
And there are voice trends that you hear, like suddenly, like maybe a certain celebrity starts to become popular with doing voiceovers, and then you start seeing breakdowns where everybody wants that voice now. They want a John Hamm sound, or they want, for a while it was just from when Justin Long was doing these Apple commercials. Almost all of the breakdowns, we want a Justin Long type. We want this. It's like, oh God, like I just hate that. And then a lot of times too, like you see on breakdowns, it'll be just a random celebrity, and they'll put a couple of them that don't sound anything alike. And you're like, well, what is this telling me? Like, what do we want a Trevor Noah and a Ricky Gervais, maybe somebody who's like Mara Rooney, or, I mean, it's ridiculous. The stuff that you see on these breakdowns.
Well, Justin, I've taken a lot of your time. I think I promised you an hour. We might be going close to 2.
We did go a bit long.
Holy
I
crap.
do need to get out. I do have to go get a donut soon.
Wait, you went to the gym?
That's on the agenda. Well, that's why I went to the gym today. Yeah. No, I do a donut on the weekends, and it's close enough to the weekends. So
yeah, I hear that. Well, Justin, again, thank you for your time. It was great speaking with you. It was great having you. It was great to say to you, sort of face to face, how I feel and how much of an impact you've had on me and on everybody else who's played this game. And I really wanted just to let you know there's a big community out there, and it wouldn't be what it is today were it not for you. So thank you for that. Thank you for your time, and thank you for your talent. This is great.
Well, my pleasure. Thank you for reaching out, and thank you for keeping the Ninja Gaiden spirit alive, man. Thank you so much for reaching out. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you, Justin. Really appreciate your time.
All right. We'll talk to you soon. Keep in touch.
Will do. Thank you, sir.